Hello and welcome to Unexplained Scotland. I'm Martin, and if you can hear this, that means you've had your COVID vaccine and I can communicate with you telepathically. Yes, it is true, we are finally back. Thanks everyone for sticking with us during our brief hiatus. As you can see, we're in a new place, we've got a nice little new setup here. Hope you guys like it, let me know what you think of it. I've been building up this episode for a while. Even in the last episode I did, I said the next one was going to be something special. So some of you are probably wondering, what can this episode be about that will make it so special? Is it going to be about ghosts? Is it going to be about another monster or a cryptid? Aliens? UFOs? The paranormal? The supernatural? Yes. Yes to it all. This story has everything. Everything you've come to love about this channel, everything you've come to love about the paranormal and the unexplained is in this story today. With that said, let's get into today's subject, Nessie's exorcism. Okay, a lot of you probably heard that title and thought, he's making this up. Nessie's Exorcism sounds like a bad sci-fi channel movie like Shark Exorcist or House Sharks or Ant Farm Dickhole.
What was that last one? Is that real?
That's a real movie, by the way. It's not a sci-fi channel movie, but it is an actual movie.
How do you know?
How do I know? But have faith, people. This story, I guarantee you, is entirely true. Or at least the people involved in it claim it is true, but it is an actual story. The validity and the character of the characters involved, that'll be for you to decide. The story of Nessie's exorcism begins in 1962. Ted Holliday was a journalist and cryptozoologist who wrote about aliens, ghosts, cryptids, fishing. You've got to have more than one hobby. Ted Holliday became obsessed with Nessie. Because of this obsession, he joined the Loch Ness Phenomena Investigation Bureau. Over the next few years, he spent hundreds of hours staring at the waters of the loch, hoping to catch a glimpse of the monster. He claims in the countless hundreds of hours he spent staring at the loch, he had 4 sightings of Nessie. Or at least 4 sightings of something that he could not explain in the waters of Loch Ness. In 1968, Holliday released a book called The Great Orm of Loch Ness. In this book, he explained his theory that the Loch Ness Monster was some form of prehistoric invertebrate. While Holliday did believe that Nessie was a flesh and blood creature, he also theorised that it may have some paranormal abilities. In 1968, the same year his book was released, he spoke about how Nessie appeared to several locals in a clear area of the loch. The locals tried to capture pictures of Nessie which they could see clearly, but every one of them experienced a problem with their cameras. None of the photos the locals attempted to take came out. Proof of Nessie's existence was, once again, lost. In his later books, Holliday theorised that all aspects of the paranormal were related. His theory was that although Nessie was an actual living creature, it had paranormal abilities that allowed it to hide its existence. Could this be something the Loch Ness Monster possesses? Could it be something that all aspects of the paranormal contain? It's a theory that could explain why alleged photos of real paranormal events and creatures often come out blurry or distorted. Former Reverend Dr. Donald Ormond was of a different opinion of Nessie. He believed it was a more spiritual creature. Holliday began writing to Ormond, and the two quickly bonded over their shared interest of Loch Ness, the monster, and all other aspects of the paranormal. Ormond invited Holliday to come and visit him at his house in Devon. It was during this visit that Dr. Ormond explained to Holliday his theory that Loch Ness needed to be exorcised. Ormond believed that the Loch Ness Monster was an evil spirit, and it needed to be cast out of the waters of Loch Ness. Ormond, as it turned out, was quite an accomplished exorcist. He had travelled all over the world and specialised, strangely, in casting evil spirits out of circus tents and wild animals possessed by demons. It's good to have a speciality. Holliday agreed to join Ormond when he performed his exorcism of Loch Ness. The two of them met on the shores of the loch on June 2nd, 1973. 4 locations along the banks of Loch Ness were selected for where the exorcism would be performed. Holliday, Ormond, a driver, and 2 other individuals travelled from point to point, and at each of the 4 points, the Reverend Doctor performed the same ritual. During his exorcism speech, Ormond referred to Nessie as a serpent and called upon God to rid the loch of all evil spirits. All seemed to be going well until they had to perform the last stage of the exorcism, in the centre of the loch. In a small boat, the exorcism party sailed out to the middle of Loch Ness. Ormond began the exorcism finale over 7,000 feet of cold, dark water. During the last stage of the exorcism, Ormond called for Nessie to reveal itself and be cloaked no more. Holliday described feeling an increasing tension in the air. He was sure that Nessie, either as an evil spirit or in the flesh or scales, was going to make an appearance, and he was particularly worried it was going to try and attack the boat, capsize it, and drown all the men. Nessie, however, chose to remain cloaked, despite the doctor's best efforts. Amund did collapse at the end of the ritual, something he had warned Holiday might happen if the exorcism was a success. Thus, the Loch Ness exorcism was deemed a success, and they paddled back to shore. It's a shame they didn't have time to go and check out Boleskine House. Perhaps they could have helped clean up some of the demonic mess that Crowley had left. That isn't a euphemism, by the way, but knowing Crowley, it probably should be. For more information on Crowley and Boleskine, check out our episode on it. The next day, Amund spent resting, exhausted from his collapse. The day after, they staged a reenactment for the media. It was on this night, June 5th, that something very strange happened to Holiday. Holiday was relaxing in the sitting room of Miss Carey, whose home he and Amund were staying at during their Loch Ness adventure. They had a caravan on their property but spent much of their time in the house talking to Mr. and Mrs. Carey. On this occasion, he was telling Mr. and Mrs. Carey that he planned to visit a nearby location where a landed UFO had been spotted. 3 tall occupants wearing what looked like diving suits entered the craft before it took off. Mrs. Carey warned Holiday not to go, worried that something might happen to him if he did. It was also a warning he received from Amund when he told him of his plan. As soon as Mrs. Carey finished her warning, Holiday heard what he described as a rushing sound coming from outside. He looked out the window, which was behind Mrs. Carey, and saw a black mass of smoke appear. It was shaped like a pyramid and was around 8 feet high. It swirled quickly like a tornado. Bangs and crashes shook the house to such an extent that Holiday was worried it was going to cave in. Holiday looked out the window again and saw a rose bush in the garden trying to pull itself out of the ground. The whole strange experience lasted only 15 seconds, and although Mrs. Carey and Holiday saw and heard strange things, her husband heard and saw nothing. Later, Holiday asked Mrs. Carey to recount what she had experienced, curious to see if it matched up to his own experience. Mrs. Carey described how herself and Holiday were discussing a nearby UFO sightings when she started to hear bangs and crashes from around the house. She had the impression that something was behind her outside the window, but she couldn't turn around. She then saw a beam of white light shine through the window and land on Holiday's forehead. This was exactly where Amund had made a cross with holy water 2 days before, prior to the exorcism, for protection. The morning after this strange experience, Holiday left the Carey house to go to the caravan to get some items. When he turned the house towards the caravan, which was on a slope overlooking Loch Ness, he was stopped in his tracks. Beside the caravan, facing Holiday with his back to the loch, was a strange man. A man dressed entirely in black. Holiday knew that this was no tourist here to admire the beauty of Loch Ness. He was hardly dressed for it, and he wasn't even interested in looking behind himself at the loch. It seemed as if he was simply standing there, waiting for Holiday. As is the case in many Men in Black encounters, Holiday felt an intense feeling of malevolence radiating from this figure. After staring at this MIB for a few seconds, Holiday decided to approach him. He described him as being 6 feet tall, dressed in a black leather or plastic. He also wore a black helmet, black gloves, and a strange mask. The mask had lenses that would have covered his eyes, but Holiday could see no eyes behind the lenses. Holiday slowly walked past him, and he remained motionless. Holiday took a few steps beyond him and looked down at the loch. He stayed as silent as he could, and he could hear no noise coming from the man. Not even breathing. Holiday started to doubt that this man in black was even real. Holiday planned to pretend and slip and fall as he walked back past him, hoping to make contact with him and see if he did indeed have a physical presence. As Holiday built up the courage to turn around and pretend to fall on this strange man, he heard a strange sound. It sounded like silent, inaudible whispering. Holiday quickly turned around, and the man was gone. A huge area was visible to Holiday, but the man in black was nowhere to be seen. There was no possible way a human could have ran out of sight that quickly. In the space of just a few days, Ted Holiday had experienced quite the paranormal adventure. A meeting with a man in black after witnessing the exorcism of the ghost of a cryptid, which resulted in poltergeist activity while discussing a UFO. If there was a paranormal bingo card, I think that would be a full house. It's no wonder then that Holiday later tried to find a connection between all aspects of the paranormal in his book, The Goblin Universe. In this book he theorised that ghosts, aliens, goblins, men in black and everything else you can imagine all come from the same place. He tries to find connections between all aspects of the phenomenon and the synchronicity that seems to come with it. Although the book was debatably disowned by Holiday and was only published after his death, there's no denying that there's certainly some interesting ideas in there. And after Holiday's experience at Loch Ness and the exorcism, you can see why he would come to the conclusion that all these things may be connected. Okay, what is my hot take on this one? Is Holiday's theory of all paranormal phenomenon being related really that unbelievable? Is it pure coincidence that he ran the gambit of paranormal encounters in the space of just a few days? Could Nessie really be the ghost of a cryptid that tried to attack Holiday after the exorcism but was repelled by the holy water on his head? And why did it choose to attack when he was discussing a UFO? Is Nessie somehow connected to the UFO? And what about the Man in Black? Did the Man in Black appear because of Holliday's interest in Nessie and the UFOs? The description of the Man in Black isn't too far from the occupants of the UFO he was going to go and investigate. Whatever happened to Holliday at Loch Ness before, during and after the exorcism, there's no denying something weird was going on at Loch Ness. Crowley knew it. If you follow John Keel's belief presented in the Mothman prophecies and more, that there are certain areas in the world where the veil between this and another paranormal world is thin, Loch Ness might certainly be one of those places. Perhaps this universe on the other side of the veil is something of a goblin universe. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I know there was a little while between this episode and the last one, but I hope this episode made up for the wait. Like I said, it really did have everything in it that you could imagine. We're going to be doing something a little bit different for Halloween, but I hope you'll enjoy it, and our next episode is going to be something a bit special as well. I don't want to ruin it, but let's just say two-parter. If you caught our update video, you might already be aware, but I've been writing an Unexplained Scotland book. It's currently on its second draft. I've got an incredible artist working on some amazing art for the cover, and I'm hoping I can share some of that with you soon. If you want to keep up with the book, future episodes, and a whole bunch of other stuff I'm into, you can follow me on Instagram or Twitter. Until next time, guys, and hopefully I see you way sooner than last time, stay safe, stay spooky.